Reading from the Bhagavad-gita As It Is, from the 18th chapter, entitled The Perfection of Renunciation, text number 3. Chajam dosavat iti eke karma prahur manisana yagyadana tapa karma nachajam iti chapare. Chajyam must be given up. Doshavat as an evil. Iti thus. Eke one group. Karma work. Praho they say. Manisinaha great thinkers. Yajna of sacrifice. Dana charity. Tapa and penance. Karma works. Na never. Chajam are to be given up. Iti thus. Cha and apare others. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity and penance should never be abandoned. Purport. There are many activities in the Vedic literature which are subjects of contention. For instance, it is said that an animal can be killed in a sacrifice, yet some maintain that animal killing is completely abominable. Although animal killing in a sacrifice is recommended in the Vedic literature, the animal is not considered to be killed. The sacrifice is to give a new life to the animal. Sometimes the animal is given a new animal life after being killed in the sacrifice, and sometimes the animal is promoted immediately to the human form of life. But there are different opinions among the sages. Some say that animal killing should always be avoided, and others say that for the specific sacrifice it's good. All these different opinions on sacrificial activities are now being clarified by the Supreme Lord Himself, or by the Lord Himself. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. At the moment in Brooklyn, we are studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've just completed a chapter where Vyasadeva found himself in a despondent state, and where Vyasadeva was unfulfilled. And he was confused as to why. Because Vyasadeva had compiled all the Vedic literatures. So, as he had described so many sacrifices and so many various activities, all meant for self-elevation, how was it possible that he was unfulfilled when basically elevation of the self was all along the topic of his writing? But Srimad Bhagavatam comes to answer this point in various ways in response to Vyasadeva it is Narada Muni who is speaking and who basically says, you have described so many activities which can all bring some progress to a person, but you have not sufficiently described pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And only pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord can fully satisfy the heart. So says Bhagavatam, Savaipum so paro dharmo yato bhaktira dokshate ahitakiya patiyata yayatma suprasidate. That this pure devotional service is yayatma suprasidate. Suprasidati means prasidati means, sidati means satisfied. Pra means prakrista rupena, in its full-fledged form. So satisfied in its full-fledged form. Then suprasidati means satisfied in its full-fledged form to the superlative, to the extreme extent. So I mean, that's sort of happy in every fiber of your existence, kind of, to make a little more simple translation. Yes, that is the idea of devotional service. The apparent progress that is attained by Vedic sacrifice within the three modes of material nature is progress that is not real progress. Just as when Prabhupada was here in this room, he would sometimes imitate the sounds of cars. Whoosh, whoosh, right? And he would say, and they are traveling at neck-breaking speed and not making any progress. They're not getting anywhere. Yes. So that is a fact. It seems that through various of such ritualistic sacrifices, even including certain animal sacrifices are found in the Vedic literatures, but that through certain sacrifice, if performed properly and in the right way, at the right time and everything, all conditions proper, that one could go upwards in the universe. And a lot of Vedic culture preoccupies itself with that, and up to the day of today, it is like that. When we are in Jagannath Puri, there is the burning ghat where those who have died are burned, and it's called Svargadwar, means gate to heaven. On the banks of the Ganga, there are many brahmanas performing many rituals, and they are making different offerings, and people come to them, and they sit under straw parasols, and all day they engage people in ritualistic activity so that there may be peace, so that marriage may work out, so that there may be children in good health, so that there may be long life, and all these things. And at the end of this life, that there may be promotion to higher planets. But, of course, in the Bhagavad-gita, it is said, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punarvartino arjuna mamupi chitakuntiyana punarjanmana vidyate, that all these planetary systems, from the highest down to the lowest, are all places of misery where repeated birth and death takes place. So that's the point. It's all temporary. What's the point if you have the best party of your life, if at the end of it you get shot? Will you come? No, my party is good. I'll give you anything you desire. Whatever you always dreamt of. It will be there on the party. Will you? But at the end you get shot. Will you come? It's going to be really good. Whatever you always wanted, it's there. Not everything. Nothing will be, everything, anything you can have. But at the end you will be shot. Are you ready for the party? This party is unfortunately We're already in the party. And whether you get shot or whether you die in bed or whether in the ICU. I once was in an ICU, and it was an interesting experience. I had returned to consciousness. I'd been unconscious for a while, but then I was conscious, and then I was sort of studying the situation, and I was thinking about it. It doesn't matter who you are now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how we came here. It doesn't matter. The guy next to me, I found out, walked under a bus. Anyway, someone else was there because of old age. I was there for whatever reason. Leaving that story for what it is today. And I was there. And it didn't matter because we were all the same. We were all on the edge, on the edge, yeah? And all in a live or die, just in the same. So yes, that is a fact. That's the material world. The party, the end of the party is always the same. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're going to get shot. That's the end of the party. Anyway, back to a somewhat more sweeter approach after the shock effect. The point is that it doesn't make sense to look for temporary improvement. That's basically the point. All temporary improvement looks like improvement, but is not real improvement. And in fact, it is true that once you've been rich, really, really rich, how can you ever live like a normal person? I mean, you know, what's okay for everyone else? Once you've been rich, how can you ever, you'll experience it as the greatest poverty, and everyone else is fine. So this is the situation. So the more we try to enjoy the material energy, the more we try to enjoy the wealth of the material world, the more we get attached, and the more when we'll be deprived of it, the more we'll suffer. So actually, the nature of increasing material enjoyment is that it will increase, ultimately, will increase our suffering. Now, we don't always see it like that, but that is the philosophical point of view of the Bhagavad-gita. As you can say, everything is temporary in this world. So, therefore, if it's bad, say something is bad. You have a toothache. It's bad. It's bad. But it's temporary, so okay, when it's over, some relief. But if you have something good and it's over, it's only bad. Actually. Yeah. Then it's already over. Like at one point, your youth is already over. You know? But you didn't use it to the full extent. If you know what I mean. I mean, we could have done more. So the Bhagavatam is interesting because the Bhagavatam deals with these fundamental aspects of human existence, and there is the description of Krishna. Memory zonked out. It will come. Maybe. What was I speaking about before I zonked out? Someone remembers? Better than me. Yes. If you speak loud, I can even hear it. I can't hear it.
Essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is all material existence, you said.
Yeah. Great.
There was some.
Anyway, I'll get back to there later, I guess. So Srimad Bhagavatam is pointing out to us that we are meant to invest in long-term relationship with the Supreme Lord. And if not, then we're basically cheating ourselves. And that's how Bhagavatam begins, describing Kaitava Dharma, saying that any other activity is just cheating. We're cheating ourselves and others as well. So, all right, that we keep in the forefront. We're cultivating this understanding. It is not coming just as a one-time realization. It is not so simple that you read it and you got it. That's sort of buying into the philosophy, but it's not to an extent. We say, yes, this makes sense, I think it's true. But that doesn't mean that we can actually live it. Right? Therefore, there is another thing called cultivation. And that cultivation is very important. That we take this philosophy and start to live it. And by living it, we'll get confronted with all kinds of emotions in this world. And then we'll gradually get emotionally on board with it all. Otherwise, if our realization is simply based on logic, then it's incomplete. We have to also emotionally come along. That is important. So, we have spoken a little bit about the fruitive activities and how the fruitive activities can never really satisfy. And that, so some sages may say, what is the problem? You get benefit from it. But we've pointed out, no, whatever benefit is coming is temporary. Then others say, yes, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. That may be true, but only if they're connected to Krishna. Yes, in relation to Krishna, yes, we will engage in acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance. But otherwise, no, not interested. And that is, of course, Srila Prabhupada's example. Only Krishna, not interested in approaching anyone else and pointing out, why would you turn to anyone else? Why would we worship any demigod? It was interesting that if at times when asked if certain things were allowed, then Prabhupada's answer would be, it's not required. I said, no, but is it allowed? And Prabhupada says, it's not required. So there's a different mindset. The Western mindset is like, well, is it allowed? Is it forbidden? I mean, if it's not forbidden, then, let's go for it. I mean, what's wrong, then yes. But Prabhupada's thing was, no, it's not required. Why would we unnecessarily deal with the material energy? So that spirit of it's not required keeps life very simple. To do only what is required, not only what is bona fide, what is authorized, what is within the boundaries. So there we can say whatever is required for the pleasure of Krishna. Whatever is required in devotional service, that is the kind of any sacrifice in that. Whatever we can give for that, whatever austerity for whatever is required for Krishna. Oh yes, that we will do. And that is what we see in Prabhupada. So whenever we are reading this, if we say sacrifice, charity and penance for Krishna should never be abandoned, then we see the life of Srila Prabhupada. Basically because that's what he did. He was not interested in any separate austerity to get some secondary benefit. Like, okay, if I perform austerity, I fast every Monday, and I might get strength of mind, or something like that. That was not, Prabhupada had no time for these things, to separately try to get strength of mind, or more sense control, or these things. No, Prabhupada would just take up the maximum service for Krishna, and then say, within that, everything will manifest. By that service itself, the transformation will take place. No need to separately try to make a transformation and then engage that in the service of Krishna. No. The service of Krishna itself will transform us. And that was his approach. And of course, then he really cared for Krishna. He just cared for whatever was necessary for Krishna. And he was thinking as to what was Krishna's desire. Then he was seeing that Krishna was just filled with love and mercy. He saw Krishna as a very loving, merciful personality who deeply desired that every living being in this world, somehow or other, would become connected to devotional service. And so he tirelessly worked for that end, always, never sort of taking a break, never, even although he did do things for his health, because he was here in New York in making his early beginning, and he wound up in the hospital, right? Not far from here. I mean, it's just, if I remember it, it's a little bit over that side. You remember? You know that where it is?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I walked past the last time. I walked past the hospital, and I think it was a bit there. Right. And now, just today, I don't remember anything. So I don't remember the name either. Sometimes I remember the name of the hospital. Sometimes I can't remember even what time of day it is. It's one of those days. Depends on how much fog there is in my brain.
Is it Beth Israel or Bellevue?
There you go. Thank you. Exactly. Super. That's what it was. Yeah. And it's somewhere over there, is it?
15th Street.
Yeah, 15th Street up there. Yeah. Okay. It's a bit up.
It's not far.
Huh? No, it's not too far. I walked from Union Square, I remember that. And I walked sort of there. Yeah. Beth Israel. Yay, I'm going to remember it now. Thanks. Yeah, so Prabhupada wound up in the hospital. Brahmananda saved him, was completely surrendered, and when Prabhupada didn't want to stay, that was it, wheel him out, and all that. And Prabhupada made his escape from the hospital, The doctor, though, had made a statement. The old man, he should simply do more exercise, you know. And Prabhupada took that very serious and really invested in his health like that. Walked every day and did so many things. So it wasn't that he was just working and working. There was yuktahara, yukta vihara. There is yuktahara, where we are giving everything to Krishna. But there's also yukta vihara, where we are relaxing. Transcendental relaxation is also there, necessary. Right? Not only devotional service means, pure devotional service means I should use every moment for Krishna and kill myself for Krishna. Not exactly, you know, no. Prabhupada showed that he took good care of himself, actually, to stay fit. So that he did. But otherwise, doing anything without purpose, that didn't exist. There was no such thing as doing any activity without a clear purpose. Somehow or other, pushing forward this movement. So that is our meditation. In Vrindavan, where somehow or other I began my spiritual life there. I joined in Vrindavan, and that's the temple where I served for many years. And of course, one thing that Prabhupada instituted there was his bell, and the bell has to ring on the hour, on every half hour, and the bell had to ring and has to ring during the arti as well. So during the entire artis, the bell has to ring, and then on the hour and a half hour, even in the night. And the bell has to be rung by the security, right? The security guards. And Prabhupada then said, and I'll judge the management by the ringing of the bell. And for a long time I was in charge of that bell. And I'm telling you, that bell, right? First of all, generally speaking, security guards, especially in India, are not the highest paid people. Right? So you don't always get the best caliber of people, you know, like for that. It's sort of a job. I guess people that don't want to work too hard, that like to sit around, they sort of, often, even in India, they call security guard chokidar. And chokidar means basically the one who holds on to the chair, you know. So the guy who sits on a chair all day. Anyway, to get these people to ring the bell in time, that was so tough. So I could see, you know, why Prabhupada said, I judge the management by the ringing of the bell, and it threatened them, you know, if you ring 1 minute, for every minute late, 1 rupee of your salary, right? Well, cut, you know. Special satellite-controlled clock, you know, since the time was always right, cemented in so no one could steal it. So many arrangements. Sometimes the rope would break and we would go up with a hammer and bang it so that it would be still in time. Very serious about it. Somehow or other, the bell had to ring. I mean, even the whole bell came down one time. Oh, my God. So many problems with that bell. Just an example of caring for things that Prabhupada considered important. That is really And in the course of that, there is sacrifice, charity, penance, and so on. So that is really our movement. Our movement is our sacrifice, our charity, our penance is based on that, on what is important to Srila Prabhupada. Right? Okay. Then that must be in the forefront. Then everything becomes meaningful. Now, naturally, there are also further representatives of Prabhupada, and we're getting a lot of information about Prabhupada through representatives. Like Brahmananda was such a representative because he was there so many times, and he was Prabhupada's secretary, and he was here, and he was the first temple president of the Hare Krishna movement, and he was the biggest, and he was powerful, and he had a big heart, and he was completely sold out to Prabhupada in every respect. I mean, whatever Prabhupada said, that was it. That was very, very important, right, to him. That was his all and everything. Then it needs to be done. He didn't question that, not even in his mind. See, this is difficult. You can, on the strength of philosophy, say, I must follow the order of the spiritual master, and internally, begrudgingly from, I don't like this order. But anyway, somehow or other, I have to execute it. But Brahmananda was like completely embracing the order of the spiritual master. That, of course, is something on another level. That is because he had complete faith and complete trust. Yeah. Brahmananda, of course, also spent his later days in Vrindavan, and over the years, somehow or other, in Vrindavan you get to know everybody, so the whole movement sooner or later comes to Vrindavan. If you haven't been to Vrindavan yet, what happened? You have to come. Yes. And if it's been a long time ago, why? I mean, the Dham is very important. So, Brahmananda was telling how that his back was out. His back was out, and so that day everyone went out from the temple to preach, and he was the only one who remained behind. Yeah. So then the phone rang, and he felt like picking up the phone. Somehow or other, some urge to pick up the phone. But at the same time, he felt, but I can't pick up the phone because my back is out. But then the phone kept on ringing and ringing, so finally, okay, he sort of got up and he picked it up, all bent over, and then someone on the other side said, "Can I speak to Brahmananda?" And Brahmananda said, "Speaking." And then the voice on the other side said, "Oh, Brahmananda, Prabhupada wants you to come immediately and become his secretary again." And as the call came to an end, Brahmananda realized that he was standing up straight and that his back was perfect. So it was totally cured. And he said, Prabhupada would cure disease, He said one time he was ill, and he was, when Prabhupada came, and said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "I'm ill." Prabhupada said, "You are always ill." And he said, "It looked like this is like a disgusting thing, like you're always ill, like why are you doing this, like it's like, well, I can't help it, Prabhupada looked like as if he was doing it, as if he was responsible for it. Anyway, he said, and then Prabhupada stroked him, and then he was cured.
Wow.
He was totally cured. So he's speaking about miracles, he's speaking about so many things, right? And then, so this was Brahmananda, he couldn't stop talking about Prabhupada and so many stories. And then, then I have that one story, which is for me the most outstanding moment I ever shared with Brahmananda. And it was really that Brahmananda giving this talk about Prabhupada, and then one devotee asked, "So, I heard that in the early days, you were also intimate with Prabhupada, but then it changed and the movement became bigger. And do you feel that something changed in the relationship with Prabhupada?" And then he said, "No. How can you say something changed?" He said, "When you're young, your father is your father, and when you're grown up, your father is still your father." Right? I mean, it was a question of a change. Then the devotee, English was not his first language, he said, "Oh, I can see that you think that Prabhupada is God." And Brahman said, "Oh no. Once I thought like that, that was a big mistake. No. Prabhupada is not God. Prabhupada is as good as God. But these days, I think he's better than God, because he came to the Lower East Side and saved me." And then he couldn't speak anymore. Voice choked up, and it's like all emotional. What can be said? So this is really the root of all things, where can we find Krishna? In his holy name. All right, can we? The holy name is non-different from Krishna. But can we find Krishna in his holy name? Are we finding him in his holy name? To what extent are we there encountering our limitations? How long can the kirtan go on before we sort of start looking at our watch, before we get fidgety, before we have to stretch our legs? Lord Nityananda and his associates were traveling on the order of Lord Chaitanya from Puri to Bengal, and on the way they would sometimes for 9 hours chant one line of a bhajan, just one line, over and over, and one would stand in a form like Krishna, and they would just repeat totally in deep absorption. In the house of Srivas, the devotees would stay up every night chanting, and in the day Srivas didn't sleep. He did his puja in the day. He was always busy in service. So one can say, yes, we can find Krishna in his holy name, yes. But maybe we are still lacking in finding Krishna in the holy name. You can say Bhagavad-gita, Krishna's words, but while we're hearing Bhagavad-gita or reading Bhagavad-gita, we don't roll on the ground, with hair standing on end. Like, there's no difference between Krishna and his words, the same. So basically, if you read the Bhagavad-gita, it should be in total ecstasy. We should be. If we would fully realize the Gita, it's Krishna's words. But, not like that. We may say, but I appreciate the Bhagavad-gita, but not that much. And so on, Vrindavan, holy Dham, non-different from the spiritual world, that's okay, but after a while, there's a lot of dust, a lot of noise, a lot of smoke, a lot of, a lot of people. I mean, crowds, and no privacy. It's like mortal sin in New York if you dare to invade someone's privacy. In India, there is no privacy. It doesn't exist. They don't do privacy. And sometimes it gets too much. Yeah. So even the Dham is not always as inspiring as when we read the Krishna book or something like that. Yeah. So again, we can't enter. There's a spirit, there's the Dham covered by a spirit, by a layer of material energy, and we cannot enter. So what to do? This is these kind of things, one may ask. Yeah, so whenever we feel that we fall short in entering Vrindavan and Krishna's pastimes, then we turn to Lord Chaitanya. And we turn to the mission of Lord Chaitanya to give out the mercy. But whenever we feel we're lacking in compassion, okay, we can come down to Nityananda and pray for his mercy. And finally, we turn to Prabhupada, who is here as the as a human manifestation of one who dedicates all sacrifice, charity, and penance to the Supreme Lord. That is what we see, and that is our anchor. There we can, everything rests on it. Prabhupada is an interesting personality because when he came to preach in the Lower East Side and in San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury and so on, preaching in the hippie era, in the Village Voice, a little underground newspaper of the time. He was described as one of the more conservative of his kind, right? Amongst the Swamis from India, a more conservative one, speaking out against LSD and other forms of things people would take, substances. But Prabhupada strongly said, conservative we are not. And that's a classic, conservative we are not. Yes. So he was open to make the message acceptable to the Western world and to the Western environment. And he did. And yet he kept things that he considered essential without any, not caring if people would be able to accept them or not. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, what are we fighting for? Not going to Vietnam, the whole thing, right? Some of you may remember Country Joe and the Fish. I do, as you can hear. I'm not the only one. Anyway, Prabhupada didn't care to speak about love and peace. He was ready to speak about war. Arjuna had to fight. Yeah. And not a very popular message. So, and yet amazingly present. Not like thinking, how am I, an elderly Indian man, what am I going to say to these young Western people, kind of thing. No gap at all, right? Completely connecting, completely on the, look, we know you're a spirit soul, I'm spirit soul, we're on the same level, right? There's no gap at all. And you belong in a relationship with Krishna, and I belong in a relationship with Krishna, and there's no other way to become fulfilled. Nothing else. Okay, we speak now about sacrifice, charity, and penance, but this is just part of a relationship. And it's about a relationship with Krishna. And Prabhupada just, in that way, could speak to anyone. Anyone. There was no gap. And be relevant to anyone. And he could see through anything. Anyone who poses, like being a big success. I'm rich and happy. No, you're rich and suffering. You're not rich and happy. Or some academic who felt like, the Hare Krishna movement was too dogmatic. And, and it's like saying, like, because Hare Krishna movement is saying only Krishna is God, right? Dogmatic, And then Prabhupada said, how, in response to that, Prabhupada said, how are they so dogmatically saying that Krishna is not God when they haven't seen him? And reverse the whole thing, said they're dogmatic. Right? They have this dogmatic philosophy, everything goes, you know what I mean, everybody, whatever anybody feels about, it's okay, must be accepted, etc. It's a dogma. No, not everything must be accepted. Krishna is God. And why? Because he is. What to do? And if you don't believe it, well, come and have a look. You can see for yourself. And in this way, to give a lecture, a Bhagavad-gita lecture here, it's difficult to speak on the Bhagavad-gita, as you can see, because I'm sitting here and feel all that energy emanating from which went like the whole movement sort of like emanates from this little storefront. And yes, the message of the Bhagavad-gita. Because Prabhupada's message is Krishna's message. Totally non-different, and yet completely realized, and then developing his relationship with Krishna, and also seeing all the living beings related to Krishna. The famous explanation that Prabhupada gives on the verse Aham sarvasya pabhavo matasavam pravartate iti matabhajantavam pudabhava samanvita. That verse is explaining how Krishna is the origin of all material and all spiritual worlds. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with love. And Prabhupada explains, yes, he said everything emanates from Krishna. So Prabhupada said, and one who understands this worships Krishna with love. Just like you say, if you love the body, you will also love the finger. Therefore, if you love Krishna, you will also love the creation, because it's all Krishna's energy. So then you'll love all living beings. You'll love the whole world. You'll even love the environment. You'll love everything, right? I mean, brilliant. Everything solved, right? With that very simple statement. Boom. in one go. And suddenly love of God is no longer something abstract. Love of God, of course, is extending beyond the boundaries of the universe. I mean, it is very, very great, love of God. But love of God is also here. And love of God is also in the love for the entire creation, everything. Right? Seeing Krishna in everything, seeing Krishna's purpose in everything. Nothing is meaningless in this world. Everything is meaningful. Of course, some things are here to correct something in us. I mean, we have picked up a few bad habits, and they need to be frustrated a little bit. So there is a little sand in the sweet rice. There is a little bit of frustration in the material world. Just a bit. To just make us... There's something called be a mouse again. Simple story. Mouse had a problem. Cat. But there was a yogi. Mouse went to yogi. Yogi said, I'll fix it. Said, Mouse, what you want? Want to be cat. Hey, I'm a cat. Then cat had a problem. Dog. Cat went to the yogi. Yogi said, fix that for you. Cat became dog. Dog had a problem. Tiger in the village. Right? So, dog, what you want? Become tiger. Dog, tiger. Then, tiger licked its lips. Oh, tiger, what you want? Want to eat you, oh yogi. Then, Purna Musikabhav. Be a mouse again. Now, the story is an old story, and it is indeed an old story we know very well. Even if you haven't heard the story before, still you know it very well, because this is exactly what happens in life. I don't know how many times you've been a mouse again, but oh God. As soon as it starts happening, here we go again. I know this game. Oh God, I gotta be mouse again. Reduced. Karma is a funny thing. Have you thought about it? Action and reaction. Now, okay, suppose I hope not, but suppose I would break my toe. Yeah? Can happen, such a thing, suppose. Now, what am I supposed to think? Maybe I stepped on someone's toes, right? Maybe I kicked someone, so what should I do with my broken toe? Should I sit there and think about it? What is it? What have I done? This is karma now. I'm getting this karmic reaction for something I've done. What have I done? And should I try to get inside? Maybe, and then I can repent for it and feel really bad about that I did it and then never do it again? No, karma is sort of blind. You don't know. Right? It's just like, break my head. First I break my toe and then I break my head because I still don't know. Why did I break my toe? So, what am I supposed to learn from that? You may sometimes wonder if it's blind. The kid is walking past and you just give it like a big so. Wow, what did I do? I don't know, but I'm sure you deserved it. Bang. What do you do with this? Oh, you see the point. So karma has a blind element, which is complicated. But actually the truth is that all this karma, it's not so much about getting some deep insight and lots of repentance and so on. It is simply Purna Musikabhav. Be a mouse again. Now you'll be reduced for a while. Here we go. Break your leg. Okay, now you can sit for a while and be a mouse. So yes, again and again we become a mouse in this world. So, seeing these dynamics in the material world, we can see that Krishna has built in various mechanisms to bring us, to purify us. In old age, even if you didn't become a mouse during your life, in old age you're surely going to be a mouse. Even Superman's going to be a mouse at the end. You know, when Clark Kent gets old, he'll also, wait, not so fast. Yeah? Everyone will be reduced. So there's the mechanism of the material energy, and all to bring us to that one point where we realize it all comes from Krishna. Any power, real power, any power we have comes from Krishna. Some power we get by some karma temporarily, but any power is a gift from Krishna. And to become really empowered, we get it from Krishna and his pure devotee. And that is, we see this place as the source of empowerment, a place where Prabhupada came and simply preached Bhagavad-gita. I'm listening daily at the moment, to the Bhagavad-gita lectures that Prabhupada gave in New York. Yeah, since I'm now trying to do a little service in New York, I'm trying to sort of get myself in the mood. Yeah. And so Prabhupada simply gave his lectures on Bhagavad-gita, but also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and embodied it, and in that way made it real. Yeah, and that is really the essence. I mean, I can't remember the full schedule, because he sent me a schedule, but it was too complicated for me to remember. I mean, I already found out I got a bad memory, so the only thing can help me is the phone. 7:30 Kirtan, it says. Good. Yeah, so question and answers. That's next. So my conclusion is Krishna consciousness is turning back to our roots. And once we anchor ourselves strongly in these roots, like Prabhupada did, then we can find so many creative ways to present it and so on. But the essence is strongly anchoring ourselves. Then we can live a life according to our personality, as long as the roots are strong. So here is a special opportunity to make that connection. So any questions? No? Any comments? No.
Prabhupada, I remember, said about the bell that he wanted it on the hour so that the residents of Vrindavan would also have like a clock. Because most of them at the time didn't have watches like that.
Yeah, and I guess he picked it up from the churches, you know. But then he also, but the idea of the clock was not just that he wanted people to have the clock. He wanted people, yes, to know the time. Many didn't have watches, but then they would sort of get used and dependent on that bell, and then the bell would also tell them when the arti was going on, and then they would come to the temple during the arti, which was the real strategy. So.
Maharaj, you mentioned, if I understood well, that the Prabhupada never took rest and all these things was just going on, but you was about to give two examples that he said he took rest because of his health. And you said there are two examples, but you mentioned one. You mentioned the one of the hospital here. What was the other one?
No, I think what I said, not never took rest.
Okay.
I said he would always be engaged in Krishna's service.
Okay.
But that there is yuktahara and yuktavihara, and that he would also connect vihara, which
Yes,
means
of course.
rest and relaxation.
Yes.
Yes. And of course, and that his walking was one example. How he started walking. The hospital was the instruction of the doctor that told him to walk. The other thing was his massage, like that. You know, he did these things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo.
So, first you were saying something like, pure devotional service is just trying to make Krishna happy, right? And not having these little things under it. But in many ways, I like to get inspired in my process. I require inspiration to do whatever. And so what I wanted to ask you was, maybe you could tell me about an experience in your community outreach in like South Africa or something, so that you can inspire me to try to, interact with my community. Because I know you go out there and
Yeah,
you do
God, the
things.
internet's so scary, you know. Everybody knows everything about you, and it's really scary.
Yeah, I came here for your inspiration, really.
No, but
Yeah.
you're kind. That's just, oops, I saw the internet coming. Like, wow, she knows everything about me. Hell. Yeah, well, every community in the world is going through karma, and history is dragging on that karma, and maybe, I mean, anyway, the African community maybe got the toughest deal of all. I mean, the Jews are also, I guess they also got a share. But the African community in the history of the world got a heavy doses, right, of exploitation. And that has left many traumas and reactions. And of course, that we see still. So in a place like South Africa, there's that's very raw and very present, because apartheid, was only abolished in 1994. I witnessed that. And they have a museum in Johannesburg, the Apartheid Museum. It's interesting because there are, according to race, there are doors, and you have to go in your designated door. And then in the middle, there's a glass wall, and people only look at each other through the glass wall. You can never connect. So it's like it creates that hole. It's not possible to connect. Yeah, so how do we get over that, How do we get over that? Cultural differences between communities are strong. I think first of all, Kirtan. Right? Kirtan's where it begins, because when we do Kirtan, we can be all together, right? And it's like brings us all together. Okay, then we can do some philosophy and some prasadam, and then we really have our transcendental package. And then it goes beyond the separation where one community looks at another community. It's very difficult to get over this in the world. Externally, you know, but still, it exists so much. But Kirtan is the one thing that can actually draw people in and unite us. Then, philosophy, where we understand we're not the body, eternal spirit soul, and finally, prasadam. So that's the simple program, and how we package that. Yeah, okay, you know. I went to Soweto, and there were a few devotees. One local devotee had started some preaching from his house and made a few devotees. And then they had a small temple room in the house and a television. And they were like, they having Kirtan videos of Kirtans on the television. And they were all dancing in front of the TV. and I was like from Ratha Yatra. And they're dancing the whole night in front of the TV. And I was there. And after that, when I saw that, you know, it touched my heart, actually. I saw them dancing in front of the TV, and then I thought, they got to have a Ratha Yatra. These people must have their own Ratha Yatra, you know. If they dance in front of the TV, can you imagine how they'll dance in front of the chariot of Lord Jagannath? So then I started Ratha Yatra in Soweto. But we only had, which is black, you know, like township, 3 million blacks in Soweto. But we only had 10 black devotees, right? So what do? You know, it's not enough for Ratha Yatra, right? And I also didn't want to bring in all these other communities, you know, like lots of Indians and lots of other communities carrying the chair. That would not work. So we first did student preaching. We got the students fired up, got a retreat organized in Soweto with Devamrita Swami. Bussed in all these students for the retreat, taught them the Maha Mantra, and they said that they were ready. Then on the bus we gave them all t-shirts. We got them in. And then we had 300 guys in, you know. So then we looked better, you know. Anyway, somehow or other. And now Ratha Yatra's there to stay, you know. It's like we just had our 11th Soweto Ratha Yatra. It was really cool. And now I come as a guest. Now I don't have to do it anymore. For 7 years I paid for it, but now it's going. So I think Kirtan, lots of Kirtan, little philosophy, lots of prasada. That will do the job. For sure.
Thank you for that. It's amazing.
No, there were amazing things. I can tell you one more South African story, maybe like a few minutes. We were preaching in universities, and it was just 1995, the year after apartheid. The young African people were flooding the universities. So we're preaching in these universities. So we had a student retreat, supposedly, and a place was arranged. And then on the day itself, that place got cancelled for some reason. So the whole student retreat was about to just be cancelled. But it happened to be so that on that very day, the devotees in the temple, they had gone off somewhere to some festival. So there was only one devotee in the temple. So I said, you know what? We'll just have the retreat in the temple. And we did. And, you know, so we went to the temple, and the students became the temple devotees for a weekend. And they liked it. You know, they were all in the temple and sort of like doing the whole thing. And then we went on a Harinam in some township, which is like where they used to keep like African people and poor and like, you know, ghetto type of places. And the educated ones get out, right? So here were these kids, educated students. And we went with the Harinam to the township, and all the local people, they just loved the Harinam. They knew it already a little, some were even chanting, and they came, and when these devotees, these students were leading, the people, they embraced them, and they could see, not only these are our kids, but these are our leaders of the future. That was very clear. And the students took charge with megaphones, and then at one point we go, Hare Krishna, and then some ladies in the back, one devotee started, Haribo, and all the ladies started, Haribo, and they kept it, Hare Krishna, Haribo. It's like a full choir, And then we had there were some kids, and they had from a plastic garbage can, cut it in half and made it into some sort of cart. Then one Mataji had 6 kids in there and started dancing in the kirtan like this. And it's it was, at one point, one lady is chanting with this kid, cheek to cheek, like microphone, both chanting Hare Krishna. I tell you, that day, we won over that place. You can't believe it, Yeah, Africa's far out, In Africa, you have 500 people, and you do a step, 2 forward, 1 up, right? And 500 people do 2 forward and 1 up. Everybody can do it. I mean, Africa's made for kirtan. If you want to know what Krishna made Africa for, I'll tell you what it is. Kirtan.
Let's go.
Okay, now half an hour more kirtan says on the schedule. What can I do? I'm an addict, so